Okay, good evening and welcome. This is the February 9th meeting of the school committee. Call the meeting to order 5:03. This meeting is being both audio and video recorded. I would ask that everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call. Samantha, if you'd start, please.
Samantha Velasquez, Secretary.
Pamela Blair, Assistant Superintendent for Business.
Antonella Rochella.
Gordon Smith, Superintendent of Schools.
Gregory Thompson.
Amy Delenta. Carrie Joseph.
Heather Brown, Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning.
Okay, thank you all. We have minutes for approval. I would take one, ask that someone please move to approve.
I move to approve the January 27, 2026 executive session meeting minutes.
Motion made by Antonella, second by Carrie. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. And abstentions?
Yes.
And one, so 301.
I move to approve the January 27, 2026 regular session meeting.
Motion made by Antonella,
Second.
second by Carrie. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. And abstentions?
Yes.
Thank you, Samantha, for those minutes. Committee and subcommittee communications. Antonella, would you like?
I don't have any right now.
Okay. Amy?
Share.
Carrie?
Eve Gallo.
Was a success.
Success. It was great.
It was awesome.
Nice event.
Yes, food was good, good company, good DJ Nino. Yep. That it?
Oh, yes, and I can't, I was just
Coaching on the,
no, because I was just gonna say, I can't go, we have a meeting on Wednesday, but the diversity steering committee has been meeting. They're working on a community engagement fair, which is in March
25th.
25th
cool,
at Birchland from 6 to 8. So
We'll be sending out, we wanted to let you know first.
awesome. Jamie, are you getting her mic, Carrie, because it's behind her computer? You might want to slide it this way. Or not. Okay. The only other thing I wanted to mention is we went to Cartamundi today to take a look at the office space for the temporary central office usage. It looks like it's going to work.
Okay.
And we have an RFP out for movers to move in April into that space. Okay.
Nice. Where are our meetings going to be after?
Well, according to Jamie, it's going to be at the Council on Aging, perhaps, is what we're thinking about, the senior center. Because they're set up, she's set up there.
Oh, it makes my life much easier.
Perfect place, Jamie.
Well, if you can,
Careful what you say. What?
no, you can
Oh.
go, the problem is if you do the cafeteria like you're suggesting, you'll also need to be projected. And I don't have, like, my stuff is going into storage, so I'd have to like lug it.
It's
You
fine.
can find a room where you don't need to be projected as well,
Oh,
you know what I mean? If
Okay.
the cafeteria is too big, you need to be
I
projected.
got you.
Yeah.
All right, work in progress, to be determined.
I mean,
Thanks,
it's only
Jamie,
a few-
appreciate
How
that.
many meetings is it? What is it? April?
April.
May?
Probably be your last April meeting, your 2 May meetings, and your June meetings, yeah. 5.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah,
I mean, we could do Council on Aging.
we can just be there. We don't need to be.
We don't get to use the fancy town council desk. Yeah,
What?
get the planning board set up.
Town council.
Anyway, okay, thank you all, good discussion. We have an opportunity for visitors to address the committee. Seeing none tonight, we will move right along. Presentation, superintendent's report, East Long Meadow Public School winter status report.
Okay, I'm gonna invite Dr. Sullivan up. And Ms. Brown, Dr. Sullivan and I are gonna go through the winter status report. And then we have administrators from Birchland Park to go through their winter status report. Just 2 reports tonight. Unfortunately, we have a lot of illness going through the district and a few people out. I'll keep my spacing, because I've been coughing as well as most of central office. Anyway, with no further ado, just to give you a quick look at how we're breaking down, DESE actually is getting faster with putting up demographics each year, so this is current. And you can see how we break down both in Areas that DESI creates for us in terms of accountability, things like high needs, English learners, low income, students with disabilities, that's on the right side of the graph, and then just how we break down in race and ethnicity. And that's based on our October 1 reporting this year.
You have almost 40% in high needs.
Remember, high needs is your students with disabilities, your low-income students, and your English language learners together. It's one big group
It's disaggregated underneath, but that's the,
underneath, right?
yeah.
Yeah, but some of them are the same.
High needs, I believe, means you have one or more, you have more than one.
Right.
So high needs would be someone whose first language is in English and they're special ed. So that's why the numbers don't add up. Does that make sense?
Does. Thank you.
All right. Then going into our goals, the first one, supporting the whole child. I think I won't read that whole thing to you, but we're concentrating on making sure, simply put, that as we program and support our students throughout the grade levels, that we're seeing them grow academically, socially, and emotionally as well. One of those areas of focus as we look at the whole child is continuing to look at how we make sure that students come every day. After the pandemic, this challenge increased exponentially, not only for our district, but districts across the Commonwealth and really districts probably across the nation. We're doing I think, a pretty good job in terms of how our attendance teams at each building attack the different challenges we're seeing. And right now, our daily attendance rate at the buildings is pretty high, and so we're excited about that. You see where we ended last year and where we are currently. So for the district, we ended at 95.9% on a daily attendance rate, and right now we're at 96.4. ELHS is 96.6, Birchland's 96.2, Maple Shade 96%, just about where they were at the end of the year, and Mountain View's 97.1, Meadowbrook at 95.9. And we'll continue to report out on that, and certainly as the schools report, they'll speak to different things that they're doing to deal with challenges that they're seeing in terms of attendance. One of the other things that we want to make sure we're looking at, and we're bringing to you obviously more of the aggregate, and then the schools will break down more specifically at the school level for their specific grade levels, but just making sure that people are feeling that they're part of our school community, that we're creating atmospheres in our schools that are welcoming and fostering for all of our students. As you can see, we're just about 90% in terms of people feeling, at least in grades 6 through 12, that they are part of their school community. Obviously, we need to continue to break it down and look at those who are feeling that they are not part of the school community. And that's something that we're starting to do. And we can, even though we switch platforms, we're going to be able to do that with open architects and look at what are the challenges that our people are feeling in our buildings. 3 through 5, two of the top questions in terms of how they're feeling about community is I can be myself at school, just around 80%, and I feel welcome at school, which is over or close to 92%. Interestingly enough, as you see the school year sort of progress, I can be myself at school takes on somewhat of it starts to decline a little bit. And if you remember last year when we were presenting, you saw things like bullying and different things that students said they were seeing at schools start to increase. I think it's a little bit of that as we start to break down this data, that when rules and structures are put in place, maybe they're feeling like they have less freedom, and so it's starting to wane, but we'll dig further into the data in terms of whether they feel like they can just be who they are, or do we need to define that differently in terms of how we ask the question. gonna switch gears as we move to teaching and learning. I think Ms. Brown's going to pick up, but this gives you an idea of, it's a lot of different targets, but basically we continue to use iReady in grades K through 8 to take a look and see where our students are at least 3 different times a year, and then IXL at the high school level over the last couple of years. And then what we try to do is really target how do we continue to move forward with all of our students and put realistic goals in each of these areas.
So before I talk about this slide, this is 3rd through 8th grade iReady reading. K-2 uses DIBELS now. It really gives us a lot better idea of those foundational skills and where there might be breakdown. And it's been much better for instructional planning. They're still in the middle of that assessment window, so you'll see that when Meadowbrook presents. Same with IXL for the high school, you'll see that when the high school presents. So right now, it's really, for reading 3 to 8, and when I show you math, it's 1st grade through 8th grade. If you go back to the targets, I just want to quickly, for folks who weren't here last year, the typical growth versus stretch growth. So these are actually determined, they're specific to kids. So the typical growth is what kids who placed at that particular baseline score at the beginning of the year usually grow based on trends. The stretch growth is what a kid needs to be able to grow, or what they need to grow in order to reach proficiency. So those tend to be much more ambitious for kids who are further behind academically. And then there is stretch growth for kids who are at grade level. Those are ambitious in the sense that they can exceed the grade level work, or at least maintain that grade level work. So these are all kind of connected to the path to proficiency. Can you go? Yeah, thank you. So this chart actually shows you their median percentage to typical growth achieved and the performance relative to the national norm. So it's a little tricky because in the winter, they look at 50% or more of the kids, and at the end, it's 100%. So you can see that everyone's placing and reading in high performance, high growth, which is great. Maple Shade went up to 110 progress, and I'll explain that in a minute, versus 70 last year. The other two are about where they were, and this is all wonderful, right? So 110 means that the kids are actually 50% or of the kids are exceeding their typical growth goal, if that makes sense. It also means 50% of kids are not, and you'll see that breakdown in a minute. But what this is showing you is that we're in great shape in terms of reading. I'm not sure if I explained that well, so before we move on, do people have questions about that? All right, next one, thank you. Keep going, because we talked about that. Okay, so this is the growth based on each grade level. And so the first 2 columns after the grade level are typical growth. And so that percentage met are the percentage of kids who have already met their typical growth goal. So we're in great shape because we're trying to get to 70%. You want to see around 50% at this time of year, and you can see we're very close to that or exceeded that. Stretch growth, we have 35%, which is pretty ambitious because I already says about 20 to 30% of kids reach that stretch growth. However, there are super stretch growth schools, which have reached up to 55%. So we've made that ambitious because obviously we want to close those gaps. And being close to 35%, these are well on their way, especially at those earlier grades. And, the last 3 years, we've shifted a lot of things. We have tightened up our systematic, explicit instruction and foundational skills. We've beefed up our language acquisition in terms of all the things that lead to comprehension. And it's not new anymore. The teachers are really making the curriculum their own. And so I think we're really seeing that progress go with the instruction that the kids are getting from their teachers. Questions about this? All right. And this is compared to the national norm and Massachusetts. So we have, for example, 29% of our kids, grades 3 to 8 are mid or above grade level. At the state level, 27%, nationally 23%. So we're edging out nationally and Massachusetts. Obviously, we want to see all of the green at the end of the year, and we're doing all we can to close those gaps. But it is nice to see that we are already ahead of the state and nationally. This is the math performance and growth by school. Even though it's 50% is still where you want to be. The reason why the graph is off is because it goes all the way up to 130. So now we're including first grade and second grade, taking that iReady. So Meadowbrook's up there. We're all in that quadrant. Thank you. I was trying to think of the other one, but anyway, a little bit closer to the, yes. And so these are similar to what we have had in the past, and you'll see the breakdown more in the next slide.
Oops, sorry, wrong one.
So these numbers are not as strong. You can see that they are not as close to the 50%. We have not done a root cause analysis to figure out what that is. We have been using illustrative math for the past few years now. My guess with that really low score at grade 3 is that we are still struggling with math fluency in terms of those facts. One of the things that we're noticing with reading is also that time for application and fluency for kids. So their accuracy is getting better, but the automaticity we still need to work on. One of the things that illustrative math does is they have something they call centers, where really are just games for kids to play to build their fluency. We made a concerted effort last year to make sure these were happening across the district. The coaches got together and really made it more user-friendly, not completely user-friendly, because it is a lot of moving parts. And so one of the things we're looking for when we go into illustrative math blocks is to see if those centers are happening. Because I really think that's going to help with the fluency increasing. But again, we haven't done a root cause analysis, so I cannot tell you definitively why these numbers aren't as great as reading. But if you go to the next slide, we're still ahead of the game in terms of the national benchmarks.
Go
Can I
ahead.
ask a quick question?
Yeah.
About that third grade number, was last year a difficult year for grade?
It wasn't that low.
Third, is that a trend we're seeing in that grade?
Well, that's why I was guessing the fluency. Because, if they're coming to third grade, just like with reading, and they're not completely fluent, it's harder. So if you're coming, yeah, exactly. And they're also in the middle of, not that this measures them where they're at, it's computer adaptive, so it's not necessarily asking them what they're working on. But I know this particular unit in third grade is pretty intense too. So yeah, I think we're going to see that dip, but I'm not exactly sure why it dipped so low in third grade.
How about 7th?
7th, you'll hear more about in Birchland. They always dip here and then they come racing back up to the top at the end. So it might have something more to do with middle schoolers. We'll see.
And those third graders, do you know what their scores were in grade 2 last year? I'm sure you don't, but
I don't have it off the top of my head, but I can certainly look and see.
I would just be curious to see how those same group of students did the year before, if they did have similar growth or if there was a trend or.
Well, the trend now, and I don't want to speak ahead, go ahead.
I was just going to say the teachers will have access to that, so they can look back and see how their current students did last year. And then they can start to look at trends and see, okay, more specifically, what do we need to possibly reteach this year and continue to support and move these students forward. But yes, they do have access to that. We did move platforms, but Open Architects does have this information so that they can access it.
And I can look at growth for last year too. What I do with the principals at this time of year is we do break it down classroom by classroom and we look. And so if it's a trend across all of the classrooms, it's probably a curricular issue. If it's not, it's more instructional. And so we drill down at that level and then come up with some plans with, as a leadership team of like, what are some of the things we're going to do.
So you had that meeting already, or?
So I did with Meadowbrook, and one of the things that they noticed is, well, I don't want to talk for them, but it was much lower. I'm wondering if the proctoring is the same in terms of making sure the kids are really seeing the seriousness of it, and we're really, again, I feel bad stealing Renee's thunder, but one class, they're going to actually retest and change the proctoring just to see if maybe that's what's going on, because it was a significant dip. So, yeah.
Third grade too, I mean, I'm wondering if it is more of a curricular thing, because you would think if it was like a comprehension issue, you would see the same issue happening
Right.
in their language arts assessments and.
And that's where I'm guessing at that fluency, and so there is a part to the curriculum that is built in. First and second grade, those centers are part of what you do. Third grade, it's extra, and so we've really been trying to figure out how do we make time for it? Because and then with some of the other demands of, the personalized learning, we did prioritize the centers over the personalized learning to get that fluency work in, but we're still figuring out, like right now, Mountain View is using a lot iReady for their math personalized learning, and Maple Shade's using ST Math. So it's also, I want to look at the end of the year in terms of like, if I can, because you can't take all the variables out, but which is more powerful, personalized instruction,
Is there a reason that the two elementary schools are using two different personalized learning?
Yes. So we have used SD Math for years, and the Mountain View teachers have asked if they could possibly use iReady. And so finally I said, fine, let's look at it and we can compare across the schools this year.
So is the idea that a decision is going to be made to bring everybody back to the same program?
Platform, yeah.
Yes. Got it.
Give them the opportunity to look at both and see where we end up at the end of the year.
Because if you don't have the teacher buy-in with the personalized learning, it's not going to be utilized as much.
What are you thinking right now in terms of which one's more?
I have not dug into that data to that, because the other thing is usage. So I have to then look and see, I can't compare if it's not being used. I think there's a lot of advantages to iReady because it is directly connected to the diagnostic, and so then it will automatically give kids things that they need to work on. ST Math is more of a step. You actually have to assign those objectives that you might want kids to work on. I mean, there's a journey, but I know one particular class, a fifth grade math class that used ST Math very successfully by assigning those objectives at Maple Shade. And I'm not saying other people didn't, but I know of one that really was successful, and the growth was out of this world last year.
Maple Shade's really connected to ST Math, right?
Yeah.
They really like it.
Yeah, they started with it, and then when the grant came up again, we got Mountain View involved. But yeah, I think that initial interest at Maple Shade was more homegrown.
Thank you.
And despite, what I was showing you in terms of reaching those growth, in terms of performance and benchmarks, we are still ahead of the curve in terms of the state and national. So, you look at all these different data points, and you look at different things, and we're always trying to push and make sure all kids are getting what they need. But we also have to remember that we really are putting everything, all of our best, trying all these different things to make sure kids are getting what they need. And the teachers are working really hard, and we have the curriculum in place, and we're working with principals. Principals are working together to do learning walks and really see where there's places where we can support. But this shows that, we're not in any kind of alarming state compared to the state and the national norms.
Yeah, it seems like they need to recalibrate the norms, so I just don't understand how they have, it's expected that 60% would be at least one grade level below. Not that it's expected, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I don't think that's the expectation. I think it's the reality, right? And so we don't want that. That's why we set our goals higher, because we don't want to be sending kids to the next grade without the skills and content that they need to be successful.
In the yellow, they're also approaching grade level, which is sort of where mid-year, you hope that they're starting to swing into the green.
Yeah.
But, yeah, you know, you have a good point, that you look at the national and the Massachusetts, and there's a significant work in yellow and green.
Right.
Excuse me, yellow and red, yeah. And then moving into inclusive and supportive culture, and how not only do we do things to support all of our students, but how we continue to get feedback on how we're doing with those efforts. I think one of the questions earlier in the, one of our earlier meetings was more information on special education programming. And so Dr. Sullivan is going to walk us through some of that. I don't know if it's the next slide or whether I'm up on the next slide. Nope.
Thank you. So on Gordon's first slide, you saw that we're at this year 21.7% of our student population are students with disabilities. That works out to be a little over 500 students. And currently the state average is 21.1, so we're slightly over, but when you do the math, it only ends up being about 14 kids, so we're pretty close to the state average for number of students with disabilities. And this is how they're receiving their education. So 66.9% of the 21.7% are receiving most of their supports and services in the general education classroom. We are at over the state target, which for this year was 65.49, so that's great. We have 12.4% of our students with disabilities who are partial inclusion, and that means that they receive probably some supports in some of our special ed programs, but we do try to include them to the extent possible. So they are generally inside the general ed classroom for 40 to 79% of their day. We have 14.1% of our student population of students with disabilities that get their education primarily in a substantially separate program. And so they are inside the general ed classroom less than 40% of the day, but again, still trying to include them to the extent possible. And we have 6.6% of our students who we are not able to meet their needs within the district, and so they're placed outside in separate schools, residential facilities, or they're homebound in hospital placements. We're slightly elevated from the state target this year, which was 6.44%. I think currently we have 34 students who are placed out of district. So if you could advance to the next slide, please. So what are the programs that we have available here in East Long Meadow Public Schools? So all of our schools obviously have inclusion. In addition to the inclusion, we have some programs that vary depending on the school. So every school currently has some version of a learning center, which is a substantially separate program that provides instruction for students that struggle academically. They're significantly below grade level with their academics. We do also in not all the schools, in 4 of the schools, because Mountain View has the program, but Maple Shade does not. We have applied behavior analysis classrooms. Those are primarily substantially separate classrooms for students with autism spectrum disorders who require some ABA or discrete trial instruction methodology to help them successfully learn and access the curriculum. We currently have a social emotional learning program at Meadowbrook and at the high school. This is a partial inclusion program, meaning they do spend a good deal of their day in the classroom, but they do come out to get some specialized instruction in social emotional regulation and social skills and things of that nature. The program at Meadowbrook is new this year. That was in response to an increase in the amount of dysregulation that was seen in that pre-K to 2 population. We run that as, we're calling it sort of a bridge program. So we have the ability to push the kids in when they're able, but we also still have a staffed classroom where if the kid's having a bad day and is not handling it, we have a space where we can continue to educate them and they don't miss any time. And then finally, we have a life skills program at both Birchland Park and at the high school. And that is a substantially separate program designed for students with intellectual and neurological disabilities. And their curriculum is modified. They do access entry points and access skills to the grade level curriculum, but we also try to give them functional curriculum so that they can become independent adults when they leave us. You will notice that there isn't a vertical alignment across the grades. And so that is something that I will be working on. I'm developing or beginning a partnership this spring with Dr. Alex Hirschberg. He's a clinical psychologist that is going to come in and do an audit at each of the schools to look at what are the strategies that we're utilizing specifically around that social emotional programming and how we're addressing the needs of those students, because we are noticing over the last 5 years, it's a trend, not just in this district, but across the state, of there being, more student behaviors. I think all of us hoped it was because of COVID, but I think it's more than that. I mean, part of that was, but it's just some generational changes that we've seen. Kids are not coming to school as prepared to do school. We learned a new word, studentship. And so those things need to be explicitly taught, and are we doing a good job of that? So Dr. Hirschberg will help us kind of diagnose where we're at with that, and then we will come up with a 3 to 5 year plan for professional development to increase the capacity of our staff to meet a wider range of student needs. I think I'm getting ahead of myself. Why don't you jump to the next slide?
All right.
Wait, I do have a question though.
Sure.
About the social emotional learning. I know that you had said that we're trying to put in all of the schools. You're doing this study over the summer.
Yeah, and just like, how are we supporting students with those challenges, and is it up to current best practice, and do we have those programs or the capacity to have those programs exist as student needs arise as they move through the schools?
Do we have anything in place right now, like at Mountain View or Maple Shade or Birchland, for those social emotional students? Because I know that you have it at Meadowbrook, so once they leave Meadowbrook, then.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what we'll be looking at, and of course, like, we have a little cohort of students that will be moving up, and we do need to address those needs. But right now, we're trying to sort of, rather than having a dedicated program that has the right programming, the right staffing, we're using school adjustment counselors, special education teachers, regular education teachers, doing the best we can. But what's happening is, so of those 35 students that are currently out of district, about half of them are probably due to behavioral spectrum disorder. And, sometimes those behaviors can be very challenging, and that is appropriate. But the other half are students with like mental health issues. And, my hope is that we can develop some stronger programming throughout the schools, that we can maybe bring some of those students back into our school community, which is of course best for everybody. So
as part of that work, I work with somebody who works with the Birch Center, and I know they've gone to some of the schools and done some assessments, but part of the work is, like, we see more FBAs, and some of those requests are coming because we want to give more tools to the classroom instructors so they can sort of like mitigate things a little bit better, and more universal design. So that's sort of what we're hoping is going to come out of this assessment too, to kind of give on the ground staff more tools to assist those students in keeping them in the class.
Absolutely, yeah, that'll be part of the professional development plan, so that we are educating. And actually, in our last PD day, everyone in the district watched an hour-long webinar that Dr. Hirschberg had prepared for the Massachusetts Partnership for Youth around, like, understanding behavior as communication, and understanding that, we don't need to jump right to an FBA. There are things we can do now to support the students. And so I think I'm hoping the plan will give us some ideas of what we can do to, number one, build capacity to keep the kids in the classrooms, but in the event that there's a student that really needs more than that, that we can develop our programming so that as those needs arise, we can meet them in the district rather than having to rely on an expensive out-of-district placement. Because 34 students doesn't sound a lot, but last year that added up to $5 million. So between transportation and the tuitions. So obviously that's, I've been here just a little over a year, and one of the things I was tasked with coming on board was trying to figure out ways that we could be more responsible about how we're spending our special ed money. I mean, we can't control it completely because we're bound by laws to provide what the students need, and we're not allowed to consider cost or budgets when we're making those decisions. But there certainly are some things that we can be thinking about doing. One is, like I said, developing some programmatic things that make sense to do here so we can get more students in district. I think that starts with professional development for the staff, for general ed and special ed teachers, because my old special ed director used to say, if you build it, they will come. It's like, a lot of times what will happen is when you build these programs, they sort of become, a dumping ground because they want all the kids that are challenging to move into those programs, but obviously you can't have all challenging behaviors removed from the classroom. So we definitely want to start with building the capacity of the teachers to know how to respond in a way that is productive, because as we know, sometimes we can inadvertently reinforce negative behaviors if we don't truly understand why they're happening and what the purpose of the behaviors are. So being able to help build our staff's capacity to diagnose some of that themselves and have some strategies in their classroom, I think will be helpful.
And the professional development's becoming more targeted and more specific, because we actually have done professional development over the last probably 3 or 4 years on universal design for learning.
And the regular.
And the regulated classroom for all schools. But now we're becoming even more specific in terms of how all educators are responsible for implementing. If it's an IEP, we all have a part to play on that team. And there's no one who sort of escapes that responsibility. Not the people who necessarily were looking to escape, but we're going to go on the idea that maybe we just have to do a better job of making sure that we're showing the connection. As a regular educator, here's how you connect to that team and what you're responsible for. As a special educator, here's how you connect to that team. As a paraprofessional, as an administrator. And Dr. Sullivan and I, on the Professional Development Day, and then following up on the most recent faculty meeting, we're at Meadowbrook going through a lot of these things with the staff, and they're good questions. And so it's like anything else, you have to teach it and then review it and then look at how they're going to practice it and then review it again and keep going so that people are understanding. This is not something, as educators sometimes like to believe, that, well, it will go. This is the newest fad. It's not going anywhere. This is, we have to realize that all of our students are presenting different needs than we've seen in the past. And so we need to build different skills and continue to grow as educators. So that's been more of a targeted message that we're delivering. And so special education has become somewhat of a through line on all our professional development days for all schools. And we'll continue to build that.
Yeah, and I think that.
Excited about Dr. Hurst.
Yeah, very excited, and I think that as we grow staff capacity, we'll also have to rely less on outside contract services, which is another area that I've been asked to look at. And again, it's just being able to handle these things internally rather than having to count on external people to help. So.
Jenny, just a basic question. Is it the 504 and/or an IEP that creates the designation of a student with disabilities for a student?
That's a great question. So in the 21.7%, that's only students on IEPs. It does not include students with disabilities. I mean,
504s.
504s. It doesn't, that particular number does not include students on 504s.
But all IEPs aren't designated students with disabilities,
Yes.
or are they?
Yes, all IEPs are.
So it's the IEP that creates the designation?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yep.
And that impacts like our Chapter 70 funding. They consider how many kids we have with disabilities. And also, we get the IDEA grant. That's how it's a formula grant. So that's how that's sort of funded through here.
Okay.
I'm done with this one, Gordon. I think I'm done. If anyone has any more questions? We kind of jumped ahead. So just some of our goals for the upcoming school year and beyond, I've already kind of talked about it: the vertical alignment, building capacity, developing in-district programming to bring students back to the community, and promoting independence and reducing reliance on contract services through a more efficient use of special ed staff. So those are the goals I'll be working on over the next few years.
If you remember, this is our second year of educational team leaders, and so that's actually been a huge help, because for the first time, we're seeing a smaller group of people writing the IEPs, and so they have the ability to speak to how services are being delivered in all of our buildings. And Dr. Sullivan gets to meet with our ETLs and our facilitators once a week, right?
Yeah, once a week. I think this year we've been doing every other week, but I'm in contact with them all the time. And it just gives me more control over, not control, but being able to say, well, when these things come up, here's how I want you to bring this in before the team. Can we ask these questions, making sure that we're being efficient with how we are utilizing our ancillary service providers such as OT, PT, speech, our paraprofessionals, making sure that we're representing what the student truly needs.
I just have one last question.
Sure.
How do we work, within the collaborative to sort of share, when we have, high need students that have unique needs? Or is that something that you're also looking at in this plan in terms of how we can maybe work better to share expenses to keep?
Yeah, I think the Lower Pioneer Valley Educational Collaborative, is that what you're referring to? or-
Yeah, but I know I've mentioned this before, like when I went to the Association of School Committees Conference, there seems to be other areas that are really using their collaboratives in a more focused way to kind of share expenses, share programs,
Yeah, so,
I don't know.
yeah, currently, the LPVAC has some special ed programming options available to us that are much more reduced expense. So they have the IAP program, which is, I think, for students that are struggling with academics, and they also can attend the shops. They have the Twain program that's for their students with social emotional disabilities. They have a Compass program that is located in satellite schools. That goes, I think, from K to 12 in different areas. That's for students with autism spectrum disorder. And we certainly do have students in those programs. The challenge is that, they fill up, there's not spots, and there aren't as many placement options in Western Massachusetts as there are in the eastern part of the state. So a lot of times we're looking at schools that are across the border in Connecticut, or they're unapproved schools, so they don't have to follow the state set rates. And so it becomes tricky finding placement specifically for sticking within the collaborative. But the collaborative, what are they calling it? It used to be HEC, but it's something else now. Collaborative for Educational Services in Northampton also has some programming. We're not a member of that collaborative, but we do have students in some of their programs as well. But I'm pretty interested in learning more about that.
So I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say the member districts have a lower tuition rate.
Yeah, that's,
The non-member districts, and so it's a balance. We've talked about it in the collaborative during budget meetings, that there are other districts, non-member districts, that have students in some of those programs. I think we have 3 or 4 students over at the collaborative, and they only have X number of spots. And if they don't allow those other non-member districts, then it's going to raise our price because it lowers ours, if that makes sense. 'Cause it's an offset. I just thought.
They have to fill to the capacity so that they can keep running their programs. But to the original question that you asked, as needs arise, such as the Twain program was predominantly a high school program, probably 10 years ago, and it's because the needs of social and emotional programming have become in such high demand that the superintendents who meet with the collaborative monthly, and business managers meet monthly, and student support services or special ed directors meet monthly, they were hearing it more and more from all those groups that, hey, we need a program here because we can't get into these other programs or they're too expensive. And they have now gone down, I don't know if they're down to kindergarten yet, but they are at least to the elementary grade.
Yeah, I have I just referred a first grader there a few weeks ago, so they definitely, and that was not an option just a few years ago.
Right. And so that's how new programming starts. The challenge is, which Dr. Sullivan hit, is that it was filled like that. And so all of a sudden, if you weren't ready to move, you don't have that option anymore. And now you're back into the queue of, okay, where are we going to place this child?
Right.
So the more we can promote and build our own capacity, the better off we are. Any final thoughts?
I'm all set, thank you.
All set, okay. And then looking at sort of some of our survey questions, as, we want to make sure that we're thinking about how are we being inclusive and supportive. We want to make sure students have someone to whom they can go. And so as 6 through 12, that question is asked, do you have a teacher or other adult at school that you can count on to help you? Close to 92% indicated that they do. Obviously, we want to break down that 8.4%. Where is the disconnect there? And then my school is inclusive of all backgrounds and identities. You can see pretty strong agree and strongly agree. But again, it's breaking down where we're seeing disconnects. So as we go through that data, we'll start working on that with our counselors and our administrators. 3 through 5, questions are a little bit different, but I have at least one adult at school I can talk to, 87.7% there. And then I feel comfortable asking my teachers questions, 85.3. So again, as we break this down, figure out how we can continue to increase that and get into the 90% and higher. Final questions? That's our last slide.
Thanks for coming.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sullivan.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we can switch right into it, thanks.
We have our two administrators, Mr. Pearson and Ms. Junga Andrew, from Birchland Park, and they will walk us through the cycle or winter status report for Birchland. Let me get you into the full slideshow. There you go.
All right, good evening. So we'll try and give you a little bit of a look at what some of the stuff the district just presented looks like at the school level. Won't be quite as comprehensive, but I think we have some information to share with you, and we're pretty proud of the progress we've been making so far. So if we can go to the first slide, Gordon, we'll look at supporting the whole child through attendance.
Okay. So just like Superintendent Smith alluded to earlier, we are very happy that our attendance rates are above the DESE target. We're at 96.1 or 96.2 just about at this moment, a little bit lower than where we were in the fall. But we are still seeing a lot of students wanting to come to school and enjoying, school while they're there. And a lot of the things that we're doing are focusing on really making sure that they feel supported and finding a place where they can be themselves. And we find that in the clubs that we offer. So we're really, really proud of all the club after-school offerings, such as intramurals and ASL club, drama club, math counts, robotics, jazz, just to name a few. We have a lot of different offerings with our clubs. And we noticed that our highest attendance days actually are on Wednesdays and Thursdays, if you take a look at the graphic in the upper right corner. And that's where we offer the most clubs on those days. But in general,
Do you know how many students are in at least one club?
Percentage, I mean, I don't have that here, but yeah, I have a spreadsheet with everybody who's signed up for a club. Most of our kids do sign up for something. A lot of them sign up for more than they can handle, then they have to choose. And some of them, they meet on the same day. But a lot of our kids do stay and are involved in clubs.
We're always encouraging students to, take a look at the offerings that we have, try them out. If you don't like it, try something else out. And if you have ideas for a club, let us know as well. We're always open to starting something new, as long as we have someone who can staff it.
We'd rather have them at the school than at the center.
Absolutely, absolutely. In terms of our absences, we still obviously have some, but most of them, if you take a look at the bottom graphic, the bottom right, most of them are excused. We have parents calling in for various reasons, kids are sick and things like that, or having other medical, excuses for their absences. And we're trying to do as best as we can to also keep our suspension rate down. If you scroll down to the bottom, our out-of-school suspension rate is very, very low. We're trying to utilize other methods to really keep students in school, but still hold them accountable, teach them about behaviors and different choices and things like that. So we're using external suspensions as an absolute last resort. And students are responding very well to that, some of the things that we're doing in school. Also on Thursdays, we have our long advisories. Students really, really seem to like that and benefit from the fact that they're in a small group setting with one trusted adult. Every single adult in our building has an advisor, including Mr. Pearson and myself. And, about 6 or 7 kids, maybe up to about 10 at the most. But we try to keep it very, very small. And this is where we're building relationships. We're talking about non-academic things for the most part, things that will help them be better students academically, but also talking about, their social lives and, what makes them good young people, how to be better peers to one another. And we also play lots of games. And so it's just a really nice, fun space every single Thursday. Again, so you could see that that Wednesday, those Thursdays, that's where we find the most, our greatest attendance, but we're still doing very well. And we're sending out letters, as we always do for those students who are struggling and really trying to engage their families and making sure that we can support them as we need. And we use Maggie, their attendance coordinator. We definitely use her to help us with some of the more challenging students that we have. And so she comes and meets with our student support team as much as she can, usually at least once a month, maybe, I would say. So that's been very, very helpful. Okay, next, want to turn the page? Well, does anyone have any questions about that? Okay, so now we're gonna jump into teaching and learning.
Those advisory groups, a random selection of students, just.
Sort of. Some of them are not. The band kids and strings kids are obviously with their teacher. The special education students are with their liaisons. And then we handpick a few. We like to get a nice cross-section of kids, including some kids that maybe have a disciplinary record so we can get to know them in a different light and build that relationship with them. But otherwise, it is random, yeah.
By grade level?
By grade level, yeah.
Is there ever like a set curriculum that you guys are doing or a set activity?
We have, our SEL programming comes from me, and I base it largely on our climate data and trends that I'm seeing in the school. So I'll look for an SEL competency that we need to address, see what's going on, look at our data, and then I create the lessons around it. So we just did one on self-awareness and your role in the team with the Super Bowl theme. Was the last one we did. But I try and make them topical and timely with what's going on in the school.
We've talked about like teamwork and
what's your role?
Treating others fairly, social media, all those types of topics. But then every other Thursday, then that teacher gets to set up their own community-based lessons, that they choose.
Do you have an assessment around that?
No, I mean, the only data we get is from the school climate surveys. We rely on that, and we do some of our own informal surveys, like we've done some for, through our diversity club. We try and talk to students of color, get like their impact and how they feel. You'll see some of that in our data. Natalie's going to speak to in a minute. We have affinity groups, mentoring groups. We talk to our student council, trying to get an idea of where kids are feeling, and then we bring that data back. We talk about it and see what we want to do about what the trends are. Okay. All right, so this is, you saw earlier, the goals that we set for ourselves around teaching and learning this year. You can see what our goals were last year and our results, and then what they are this year. So when we go into the next slide, don't worry, you don't have to memorize those numbers, they will be back on here. See how we did. So this is our reading performance, the fall versus the winter. And, the picture kind of tells the story here. We are reducing the red while increasing the green, which is definitely the aim. We want to have that red as minuscule as possible by the end of the year and have a big, healthy green section. And you can see for all three grades, we are falling in the high performance, high growth quadrant. So we're pleased with that. All right, Gordon, next we can go to the next slide here. And what we're really happy with here, if you look at our numbers, and there's again our goals at the top, told you didn't have to memorize them. We're looking for 68% typical growth, 35% stretch. Now, we took this diagnostic in early December, so this was not even quite the halfway point of the year. We're on track to make those goals, halfway point. 43% for grade 6 have already made it that far, 48% for grade 7, and 49% for grade 8. And you see our stretch growth will look like we're on pace to make our stretch growth, which is an ambitious growth goal as well. So what really makes this something we're proud of is that we are in year one of a new curriculum. That usually comes with some growing pains. We're working through those, trying to support our ELA teachers. We have a fantastic leadership who's done an amazing job of that, and I think the results show right here. So we're right on track with where we want to be. We still have some gaps in there that we need to address, between the haves and the have-nots. That's what we're working on, trying to use our data to find our kids, get them into the intervention programs, either through our, extended enrichment with their reading teachers or into our tiered reading program. And, we look at that quarterly, move kids in, move kids out as necessary. All right, and Ms. Brown kind of alluded to this already. This is our performance against the national norms in the state for grades 6, 7, and 8. And she already kind of spoke to this, but yeah, we are outperforming, national norm and the state norm. We want to, of course, see those numbers improve more, but even with our new curriculum, we're doing better than a lot of folks are across the country and across the state. We want to keep that trend going. All right. Okay, here we are for math. Again, a lot of the same. You'll see the red is shrinking and the green is growing. And we have our high performance, high growth. Now, our 7th grade numbers, which we talked about, this has been a 3-year trend where they're performing high, but their growth isn't as high as the other grades. But in every year, they always end up as our top performing group as well. Our 7th grade math teachers, I would take them over any math teachers in the state. They're amazing, and they're very much into the data-driven instruction, where they are looking at trends, they're looking at which questions come up on MCAS, how do we perform against the state, and they try to set up their curriculum, and I believe is why we see this dip, to prepare for the MCAS, which the topics that are going to be the biggest ones that are going to come up and that we have the big struggle with being closer to the MCAS, so they're not hitting some of those algebraic and geometry standards as much as they will later in the year, and you're going to see that when we do our final presentation in June, that their number is probably going to be way up there, if not the highest. I think it's the way that they structure their year, but every year this trend is played out where they have that dip in the winter, and then they're our highest performing group by the end. I mean, MCAS last year, their growth numbers were in the 70s, which is, more than a year's growth. So I have a lot of faith in them. I'm confident that they're going to continue the trend and that it's really based on how they plan, looking at the data that they have. Okay, and again, we're less than halfway through the year. We took this and we look like we're pretty much on target, with that 1 7th grade aberration to reach our goal for the year. Last year, they smashed it. So they're doing a great job. I want to continue to support them. We are trying to get them to work to do the IM with more fidelity. They have very strong opinions. They like the approach about flipping the classroom a little bit, but they still have opinions about the order of things and mixing it up to try and meet the needs that they see in the classroom. So we're really pushing for them to try and just, let's go with the units in the order that they are. And, they're also very aware of their great numbers last year, and if it's not broken, why are we trying to fix it? But it's a good ongoing conversation, and I think we've seen a lot of growth, particularly in our 8th grade. Our 7th grade is going to round into form. This is our first year of having an accelerated group in 6th grade. So I think we'll see that nice translation when that group moves up into 7th grade next year. They'll be ready to dive right in. But we are pretty much on track, making good progress towards our goals there. Okay, and again, the comparison nationally and against the state. Always want to see less red and yellow, but we are, comparing favorably to the state and the nation when we look at that data.
Okay. All right, so for our inclusive and supportive culture and climate goal, we have taken the following action steps to really make sure that our students feel they're part of our community, that their voices are heard. And so one of the things that we're doing is some mentoring. These are some things that we've started a couple years ago, and we're continuing because we found a very much success with those things. So for one of the first things we're doing is having a Maple Shade Elementary and Birchland Park kind of mentoring collaboration. Connor Martin at Maple Shade has reached out to his families, and he's identified some students who he feels would benefit from some mentoring for whatever reason, and their parents have agreed. And so what we've done at the Birchland is identified about 6 students who are in the 8th grade who we feel have some innate leadership abilities, and we want to strengthen them and give them some real hands-on opportunities to just, put their abilities into practice, especially as they prepare to go to high school. And so we've had 20 kids signed up right now, but we are doing it in 2 different sessions, 10 students at a time. And we're collaborating with Ms. Chandria McCoy, coordinator of METCO Belonging, I don't remember the whole title.
And family engagement.
Student belonging, all the things, and she's amazing. And so we have so much excitement around this. We meet every other week at this time, and we will do this throughout the remainder of the school year and then have a big celebration at the end. And right now, we have 6th graders and seventh graders who remember their time and they're like, can I be a part of it again? And it's just really, really nice, especially when those kids come up from Maple Shade. They are familiar with their school, they're comfortable, they're more acclimated, and and calm and relaxed and just they already feel supported coming in.
Is that after school they do?
This is during,
They come
yeah.
up, they have lunch with us, they're very excited about that, and then they go into a room and they do some lessons.
Activities,
engagement,
games,
activities.
lessons,
Yeah.
conversations.
There's a craving from it for the older students. Our student reps just the other day mentioned that they wish there were more opportunities, even though they had taken advantage of those that are available.
Yeah.
But the mentoring from the older students to the younger ones, yeah, that's great. Yeah.
We also are collaborating with the Academic Leadership Association again, and we have a group of students that are working with Mr. Valenti Tulloch and his mentor, and so that's going very well. We're really happy to see that continue. Again, Andrea McCoy is also in support of that, and so
Yeah, she's been great.
she's been great. So we really do appreciate that, and I'm sure, and our students do as well as their parents. And then we also check in with our new students to the district. So we want to make sure that, especially kids come in different, grade levels or mid-year, and they can feel lost. So we don't want that. So we check in with the counselors, Mrs. McCoy, work with myself. We also meet with them, have some conversations, some games, have some snacks, things like that, several times throughout the year, just to make sure that they can share how they're feeling, what are they struggling with, do they need any help, how are they enjoying their experience thus far, and how can we make it better for them. Then we have our student council and diversity club. This one is easier said than done, but Mr. Pearson and I are trying to make sure that we tap into those clubs so that we can really allow them the opportunity to share their feelings directly with us, so that, and it could impact how we direct the school using their feedback. And that's really important for students and also for us. And then finally, we have taken the surveys, the winter surveys, and then of course, Mr. Pearson will talk about the engagement surveys, just to really get that direct student voice to hear what's happening from your perspective, and what do you like, what do you not like, what can we do to make things better. So if you turn to the next slide, pretty much Superintendent Smith shared these slides as a whole, and our slides mimic them very closely. We worked really, really hard at this to make sure that students feel supported and included. The first one, do you have a teacher or other adult from school that you can count on to help you? And overwhelmingly, about 92.8% of our students said yes. So again, we're gonna figure out what's going on with that other 7%, how can we support you, what are we missing? And then again, collectively 90.9, 91% students either strongly agree or agree that they feel that they are a part of a community in our school. So there's something for everyone. Everyone's finding something that they can say, I'm a part of this, I do this, I've joined this, and they feel good about that.
Are the surveys anonymous?
The winter surveys?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you don't know who's in the set?
There are comments.
Yeah, there are ways.
There are ways, but.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure.
They can write comments, yes, so we know some of the ways they want to feel more supported are if we let them have unlimited cell phone use and all that stuff. Yes, suggestions,
And they can be themselves.
yeah.
And I just wanted to say, like I said, we work really, really hard on this, particularly in the relationships that we have developed and in the classroom level with our counselors, our adjustment counselor, our guidance counselors, even with me and Mr. Pearson as administrators, we really have tried to find that balance. Yes, we have to hold students accountable for different things, but also show them lots of love and support and talk to them like our own children. And so students feel very comfortable to come talking to us. Very comfortable, they don't feel like, oh, I can't talk, they see us every day in the cafeteria doing lunch duty, things like that. They share how they're doing in a particular class or what they got on a project, things like that. So it's always just nice to see that. And then of course, like we talked about the clubs, and just really being proactive with our discipline measures, not always so punitive at the tail end of things. If you could turn the slide, there we go. My school is inclusive of all backgrounds and identities. Again, 92.4% in total strongly agree that yes, they feel that our school is very, very inclusive. Again, and for that small group of students who disagree or strongly disagree, we really do need to tap into that, because, that makes us feel bad. Like, well, what can we do to make you feel that we're including you or someone else of it, or some identity that we have maybe overlooked? But I think, again, we're very intentional, we have a very inclusive library space, we have signs around the building, our conversations that we do in our SEL lessons, and on Thursdays, the literature selections, we've been thinking about that a lot, around, with our curriculum, making sure that we have inclusive books and novels and things like that. And just a lot of the topics that are studied in class, we want to make sure that everyone feels that we can be represented at all levels. Okay, and Mr.
All right, so this year we are doing the engagement survey a little bit differently. It used to be part of the climate survey, and it was kind of a question that we got this survey that 95 or 85% of kids felt engaged, but it didn't really give us a ton to work with. So with the high school this summer, we tried to get something that gave us a little bit more specificity about how kids were feeling about what was going on in the classroom, with some more specific questions, separated it out. So we give this in every class. We gave it in November. We're going to give it again this month in March. But these are some of the results we got that we wanted to share with you. So I think this speaks really highly to our professional development focus the last 3 years of Birchland. We have a different focus for each year. First year we had universal design, and then we had last year was looking at the instructional block and making that more robust. And then this year we're data-driven, using data to inform our instruction. And I think that you see that play out here in these results. So, it's overwhelming agreement that kids feel that they get good feedback from their teachers. Teachers are aware, checking for understanding, and when things aren't working, they're changing what they do. They're giving kids multiple ways to represent their learning. So I think that it shows that the professional development opportunities we've been giving to teachers are really paying some dividends, and it shows in what the students are sharing with us. So, we got some feedback that we want to work on for next time. We'll see what our results are when we take this in March, but I think we've seen a lot of positive feedback from the kids about what we have going on in Birchland.
That's your final slide, right?
That was our last slide, yeah.
Any other questions for Birchland today? Good.
Can I say something?
Please, Heather.
It is not easy to have a middle school where so many kids feel so happy, because middle school is tough. So I know you guys know, but thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Try.
Yeah.
Try to make it fun. We're a little goofy too.
On Thursday night to the dance, you'll see the goofy side.
Yeah.
Nice. Good stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you both.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you.
I wonder if we should do this in 4 weeks. Having all four, or what do you think?
We can, however you want, when we do the agenda setting, we can.
High school one?
I'd like to hear that separately.
Put it
if
in
it's
4
an
weeks.
option.
4 weeks, yeah, maybe we'll do that.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Looking at.
So high school's gonna go tonight.
Instead of doing.
Right.
We're gonna push them for 2 weeks, but we have the other 3 schools, so I'm just thinking 4 schools is a lot.
Yeah, it is.
So maybe we'll just put high school on,
I'm okay with that.
all right, yeah, if that's all right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving right along, we have the Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning report of the 6th and 7th grade social studies curriculum renewal. Heather.
All right, so the history and social studies standards changed in 2018. And what it did to 6th and 7th grade is it basically mixed 6th and 7th grade social studies standards, so that not only were they learning the ancient history, but they're also learning the geography of a region. The curriculum that we had licenses that are now up for renewal through TCI, History Alive, which usually does a wonderful job. The high school uses it and loves it. We loved it, but when they tried to mix together the 6th and 7th grade, they basically took what they already had and kind of piecemealed it. So it's very clunky, and the teachers are really struggling with it. So This year, it's up for renewal. It is very costly. The teachers are not super fond of it. And thankfully, DESE has created a curriculum that is completely aligned to the 2018 standards called Investigating History. So we've been following the DESE process in terms of going through investigate and select. This is the only curriculum that is out there that is aligned. It also happens to be free.
Oh, I love that. I was just gonna.
Right? No licenses. We do need to pay for paper copies of things, and I need to look into some professional development, but the savings from TCI that we would, it's not part of the budget because it would have been,
Okay.
because we paid for those.
Yeah, they were already, okay.
But yeah, the great news is, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. So we're going to be in the launch. So we're looking at different training options. Actually, I'm going to back up again. I introduced this to the 6th and 7th grade social studies teachers on the PD day. We went through all kinds of things, the why behind it, and they got to eventually just explore the curriculum. And the feedback that I got is that people are really excited about it, which is great. So the next steps, they've asked for some release days to do some planning. They've asked for further professional development. So I'm looking into ones that are high quality, but also not really expensive because they range. We'll need to come up with our plan for assessment and grading, expectations for use, which I've done with the elementary and middle and high school curriculum, so that's very clear to teachers what we're expecting them to do, and then communicate with families. And then once we launch next year, although some people were excited enough, they want to pilot some units this year, we will, implement and monitor. So see how things are going, and exactly the same thing we've been doing with the elementary schools is as we implement the curriculum with fidelity, we see what works, what doesn't work, then the next year we can start making some tweaks. But I always say, and this is not my idea, it's somebody else's, but you can't change the recipe until you've made the recipe as it was created the first time, because, you don't know if it was not doing well because of the changes you made or because of the recipe itself. And so this has a lot of great reviews from folks who have already started using it, and they're expanding it to grades 3 and 4. So there might be opportunity going forward that we can have some coherence from grades 3 through 7 in terms of social studies curriculum.
Heather, I was just going to ask that. It's interesting that it stops at grade 7. It'd be nice if it went.
Well, 8th grade civics.
Right.
So that's a completely
It's
different.
not, they don't have a component, this particular curriculum doesn't expand into.
No, and I think it's because in high school, they start really differentiating. It's more like the US history and geography and, all the different things. And we have a great offering here in the history classes, but also history electives and AP. Kids often have more history classes than they're required to. So yeah, I think that I would love to see it go a little bit, younger, K to 1, we'll see what they do. But it's just lovely to have someone say, here are these standards and here's a curriculum that's completely aligned, because there's never really a unicorn curriculum. And I'm not saying that this is, but it has gotten great reviews from the folks across the state who have used it. And like I said, our teachers are excited about it as well.
Is this the first time DESE's offered the curriculum like this?
It's not, Investigating History has been out. They started with 5th grade, and then 6th and 7th were released, I think, maybe a yeyear ago. And now it's like not in pilot form anymore, so people have used it.
But it's the only the history one that they have. There's not
Oh, have they created curriculum for anything else? No.
okay. Is that coming?
They offer a process which we've utilized for elementary,
Selecting.
where they have a variety of curricula, and they've gone through their process to deem it high quality, and then you can go in and follow their process, and that's how we were able to get a certain amount of DESE support when we moved on elementary literacy and we moved on elementary math.
We have to choose, we have a committee, we have goals, we have a vision, and all the things, we go through all the information, we choose, come to consensus. We don't have to choose one of the high-quality ones as defined by Massachusetts. However, there is a decentive now. So while they're not one of the states that says you have to use this, this, or this, Now, if you apply for grants, you have to show that you're using one of the ones that they like, or that they've deemed high quality, I should say. So there really isn't a reason to not choose one that they've already vetted.
Requirement, but there's a
Yeah.
consequence if you don't.
Right, and I mean, they're good. There's great stuff in
We've always
there.
chosen off the
Yeah.
list, I imagine, yeah, okay.
Well, one of the great things, and Ms. Brown said this, was that it's aligned. So when they've vetted, the different, say, literacy curriculum, it's aligned, and so you know that you're not going to have to continuously do that work to align to the standards, because they're going to consistently revise standards. As we know, they're on a cycle, and we were on a cycle. As we move into the next agenda item, when we talk budget.
Let me say one more thing before we do, sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that we pause those cycles.
Yeah.
And so getting something where there's state support and you know that it's aligned and it's high quality, that's exciting.
And it will realign, is that what you're saying?
And they're going to keep it aligned,
Aligned.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And just to remind everyone, the idea behind the high-quality instructional materials isn't that teachers aren't capable of creating curriculum, but we just don't have time to create it. And so instead of teachers spending their time curating materials and doing that, they can have this in front of them and really deeply plan of how am I going to instruct in such a way that all the kids access this. So it's really just shifting what we're using their expertise for. It also creates coherence.
Need a vote to adopt this?
Yes, please.
Okay. I would,
To accept the 6th and 7th grade social studies curriculum renewal as presented.
motion made by Antonella,
Second?
second by Amy, discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. That carries 4-0. Thank you, Heather.
I already had it the right way, and then I flipped it for the budget.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Heather. Okay, moving along, we have for old business, fiscal year 2027 budget development discussion.
Am I going?
Off or you-
Oh, Sure, well, no, you go ahead, Gordon.
Hot potato, hot
Go
potato.
ahead, and then I'll jump in.
So tonight, obviously, as you said, it's under old business, and so these are discussions that we've already begun, but we do need, leaving this meeting, a vote to formalize at least the level services budget for the town, and then, and what they're, I think, deeming level 1, because they're having discussions with their department heads this week and probably next week regarding their level 1 budgets. And then certainly as we move forward, all the middle portion of the page in terms of strategies and so forth can be discussed, and we'll start discussing hopefully what actions we want to take as a school department with the town manager and the municipal finance director.
Yeah, so I was just going to add, just as a reminder, so what did I do at the last meeting? I had gone into Munis and I put in all of those items to show you, the school committee, what exactly is a level services budget for us to get back everything into our operating budget that was covered under school choice or that just didn't happen this year, like the professional development, and what would that picture look like? And what I'm seeing is it's 6.24% increase, which is a $2.3 million. You see it there on the spreadsheet. What do we know? We've had some preliminary conversations. The town will most likely not be able to afford a 6.24. I think we all know that. So I need a directive from the school committee as far as what do you want Gordon and I to submit on your behalf as the level services? Just as a reminder, last year, you chose to reduce that down. I don't believe, remember, it was like 8%. We never brought that 8% forward at the beginning. We reduced it down.
Did we?
Yeah, the
What did we
level
take out,
one.
remember?
What is, I'm sorry,
What did we take, how did we read
the curriculum renewal, all those things.
that
were listed.
initially?
Yeah, exactly. So, there's two ways to go about
Yeah.
it, right? Level 1 is to show what are your level services, and that is the true number. We're not going to get that, as we all know. I don't think it's time now to start on anything that we can reduce yet. I think we need to digest this and bring it forward to the school commit, I mean, to the town manager, because they are ready to flip. Kim had reached out to me today to ask if I knew, she's ready to roll it into a level 2. And I said, tonight, the school committee will be giving us a directive on what exactly to bring forward.
Okay. Yeah, Antonella? No?
So the middle portion are just ways, because you see preliminary discussion with the town, that possibly they could look at getting to 3.2%. And so that leaves a difference between the 6.24 and the 3.2 of roughly $1.12 million. The middle portion are things that we started to discuss in the last 2 meetings around, okay, how do you start to reduce that difference? So it would be things like curriculum renewal goes on hold again. It's been a placeholder roughly of 80,000 in our budget. In past years that were maybe more prosperous, we had tried to increase it to 100,000, but we've never been able to achieve that. And now, unfortunately, we're looking to freeze it again, but also seeking an MOU again for just 1 year regarding the reimbursement, individual reimbursement for professional development, which in the ELEA contract is at $650. That would be pursuing that with the ELEA. Expanding our choice slots for next year. You don't have to necessarily vote on this tonight, but I did include in here enrollment information for you, so you can start to look at that. It's probably a few pages in on your document. Both gives you the enrollment for each grade level and then starts to break down more specifically the elementary homerooms. I'm sorry, go ahead.
What is the sports fee right now?
So I have this information from Kevin, so if you could take one and pass it around.
I'm sorry.
Remember, no, that's okay, this is
If
a
I was
perfect
jumping
segue.
around.
$199.
Perfect
Okay.
segue right into the athletics,
It
though,
is, it's
because
$199.
Yeah.
Kevin did a survey of the surrounding districts here so that you could see where everything is at. And at the last meeting, I did mention that Kevin was maybe, Kevin and Frank, suggesting that we put that $8,500 insurance back to the parents. Well, after he's done his survey here, he actually said in the email to Gordon and I that he would suggest that we do not do that, that the school department still covers that insurance. Because in order for some of the folks, the higher sports, such as football, can be very costly, like, $200 in addition to the sports fee. So he does not recommend that you do that.
Is that it? To put it back in?
Sports fee.
Not to raise the sports fee or to the insurance.
Carrying the insurance,
Okay.
where you charge
Yeah.
people to carry it.
Is it, you didn't put it back in the budget yet, though?
It is still in the budget,
You
right?
never took it out?
Correct,
Okay, great.
correct. I didn't, because it was one of the talking points, so until,
So we'll just leave it there.
I just want to make sure that you had known that there was 40,000 additional dollars there, and this information here.
No, we're not the only one who does senior citizen discount.
Right.
That's great. No user fee in Agawam.
Yeah, that's impressive. I
That is impressive.
Right?
don't know how they do that.
Mm.
But I do have a superintendent's meeting tomorrow, so. I'll-
Yes.
I could ask that question.
What's the percentage of students that are low income?
In our district?
Agawam.
Oh,
If I-
Our district, it's hovering around 20,
Yeah.
between 20 and 22. I don't know about
bet they're-
Agawam, but you could probably pull it off district
I just,
profiles.
yeah, I was looking at Westfield today, and it's like 46% or something, so I didn't know if that had something to do with like why they do a user fee or not,
yeah, it could.
You can see the districts that scaffold their user fees. Long Meadow would be one, Minichog would be another, and West Springfield would be the other one, where we have a set user fee and Ludlow has a set user fee.
I just want to remind everybody that we did just go up this year from 149 to 199 for the families. The other thing I just want to make mention, I had put down here about the LPVEC, those new positions, if those were not voted on, that I anticipated $16,000 savings to the district. However, I was just told, I think on Thursday or Friday, that LPVEC is looking at their budget again because the insurance rates came out, so that means they have to add on additional, because remember, our assessment includes the benefit of employees, because it has to cover everything, so that's going to go up. So my whole point is, I don't think we're going to have any savings there at all. I'm anticipating it being a wash or maybe even more.
Are they pushing for those positions still?
I don't know the answer. Gordon's going to be at the superintendent.
That's the 16, right?
That's correct.
So it could be the 16 plus the insurance.
My guess is, so the superintendents
They go for it, yeah.
are recommending not supporting the positions.
Yeah.
My guess is that that's going to be discussed again tomorrow at the meeting, and then there's another budget meeting with superintendents and business managers toward the end of February, I think.
Yes, yep.
But it'll be the board that.
The board ultimately decides, yeah.
Okay. William knows what to do, so.
I was just gonna say, they added a meeting, but I think it's just the corporation. I don't think it's a joint one.
Yeah, corporation will
On
decide it.
Wednesday.
It'll be the other one. The executive.
They're talking insurance?
I don't remember, but there was a lot of back and forth about just trying to getting everybody to come, so there'd be a quorum. But it's,
They're not part of Scantic Valley Trust.
They are, yeah, yes. It's the same rates as,
Because Scantic Valley Trust met on the insurance rates last week, so that's why this is all coming out now.
right.
no, this is like capital projects.
Did you get all the way
So it
down?
must be their capital projects, right? Is that what you just said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what
That's what this meeting is
That's what they-
this week.
corporation is, all capital, isn't it? It's all facilities and capital.
We only charge for 3 different sports. All the other ones are free to go.
Where,
Like
where,
lacrosse
Football,
or-
soccer,
To,
and basketball.
Yeah,
to watch, right, not to.
To watch.
right, to watch.
Spectators, yep. Yep.
So it doesn't matter if they play on the turf or
Field hockey, I don't think we don't charge field hockey. right?
or
I
lacrosse.
think the numbers are not,
They don't warrant.
got to pack the house in lacrosse.
did you,
Start charging.
shortfall, Gordon, did you go all the way to the bottom? I don't remember if you did.
We didn't.
Okay.
Did not, no.
You want us to? You want me to?
I just didn't know if you're going to, because that's what gets to the,
Well, so the.
to the 3-2.
Exactly. So
That's all.
ultimately, after we look at some of those strategies, possibly, we're still looking at a shortfall of about 370,000. And actually, I would anticipate it's going to be closer to the 400,000 with LPVAC.
Collaborative.
Yes, I do. So that's where we would have to
Fine,
find, yes,
just to get to that
just to get to the.
palatable
difference.
number.
That's right. If that was a 3.2 that we were given by the town.
That's if we get that even, so, but, yeah, so that would be what we'd be working on next, is to get to there. And potentially in our next meeting, we'll have an executive session, and then we,
Yeah, the unfortunate thing is, we're hoping to stay under the 400 because that might be easier to look at and not be in a situation similar to what we were in. We're not in a situation, even if it goes to 400,000, that we were in last year, because when we got through the strategies last year, I think we were still looking to reduce close to 850,000. And so that became a good number of positions. We will probably have to reduce some positions this year. How we do that, though, hopefully we could look at and be able to sustain where if we're looking at positions where we may have a retirement or a vacancy, we don't fill it. But we have to really be careful of how we look at those, because in some cases, those might be positions that have urgent need. And so we don't obviously want to be cliche, cut off our nose to spite our face. If that's the proper cliche.
We don't want you cutting your nose.
No, I'm going to try not to cut my nose off. So those are recommendations we can bring to you in executive session. We can show you, where those positions are and what other recommendations, because we are discussing this. We did discuss this as a leadership team, and principals may go from that discussion and come up with other creative ideas. And so I'll try to bring all of those ideas to all of you.
How many people do we have buying the transportation fee, the bus? Do you know? You probably don't know offhand.
I know the enrollment is down.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Jill Donovan.
Yeah, she did. The number's just not in my head, so I don't want to give you the wrong number.
That's fine. I was just
wanna say
trying.
Maybe like 1,200?
100?
Yeah, 1,100.
Okay.
I can find out that number for you, though.
And when did we last increase that?
It has not been increased since I've been here.
2011.
Really?
But what we did was we put in a cap, a family cap at the time.
Yeah.
And we kept it at the, what is it?
540? The 570?
270. We kept it at 270 and then put in a cap. So actually, we didn't increase it, we just capped it. Because they used to, if you had 3 children, you would get 270 3 times. Where we capped it, you can have 3 children, but you're only going to pay the.
I'm a benefit of the cap, so I know what the cap is.
So if you have 3 children, you still just pay 270?
540.
Oh, you,
So
540 is the
family is
cap.
capped at
Up to
540.
2 students.
oh, okay,
And after the 2 is not charged.
got it. Okay.
Can we talk school choice a little bit?
Sure.
If you go scroll down 2 slides, the numbers are there for the classroom sizes.
So, yeah, just to give you an idea, so the first page is, this is coming out of Power School, because Power School gives us the best look at actually the students who are walking around our building. So it includes in Power School our school choice students, it includes our MECO students, includes our Willie Ross students. And so it gives you, by grade level, the students that are currently in our buildings in terms of numbers, as well as the out-of-district students. And that may have gone down because Dr. Sullivan kept saying 35, where when I ran these numbers, it was 36. So maybe we have brought a student back. So that gives you an idea of where we are by grade level. And remember, if you're looking at school choice, you're looking at it for next year, so you would move these numbers up. One of the interesting things is that kindergarten's the lowest it's been at 108 in my entire tenure. Now, in every year for the last 5 years anyway, as we've been involved with the MSBA, we've done a enrollment projection through NESDEC, and they have us growing again at kindergarten, but not to the level that we had seen in previous years. Previous years, we've been in the 150s usually with kindergarten. As you can see, grade 1 is 158. But they have us growing somewhere around 130, 131 for next year. So even if you had your 7 sections, which currently we have 7 sections, your class size would be pretty good. But if you're looking at grade levels in terms of school choice, families, I think, like the transition years, so to speak. And so that's obviously 6 and 9. You could look at 3. You could also look at K. I mean, we get inquiries on all those. Generally, I think the inquiries are on those grade levels versus like the grade 4 or the grade 7 or that type of thing.
Varies, but I have had people recently, like getting a lot of phone calls right now. A lot of people are calling for other grades that are not like, I've had some for 7th, for 8th. People just want to have their kids in the district.
Yeah.
So I think a lot more people are calling for just different grades that don't get chosen more often. So good to have a different option.
So you can spread it out, because I know that when we talked about it as a leadership team, 2 things came up. They definitely want to be part of the school choice program. They feel that what we have to offer in the LPS is worth, sharing with our neighbors, so to speak. But they also want to be, as you have been over the years, very diligent in how we do this so that we're not strapping any one grade level. And that's generally what we've tried to do. The last 2 years have been, or last year and then this year, have been challenging because we're looking at it in the context of budget and a funding strategy, which is unfortunate. But they would, two things. One, like you to continue to look at that and not necessarily pile on in any one grade level. Last year, we had 10 at 6 and 10 at 9. Maybe that's not something we look to do, but we spread it out more. The other thing that came out of our discussion at the leadership team was that the earlier we can get students, the more beneficial it may be. Because they did notice both at grade 6 and grade 9 probably being even more challenging, that finding out and figuring out gaps and deficits, and then trying to support that, you have less time to do so as you go forward.
Did we talk about first grade too, because the first grade will be smaller?
That's
Yeah.
kindergarten.
We're talking about spreading it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so part of the strategy, as was listed above, is potential to add up to 25. We currently have 51
right.
participants. And so as long as that's something the committee is comfortable with, obviously we don't have to designate what it would be, but as we continue our budgetary discussions, if there's no real objection, to at least continuing that discussion.
I think some of these classes, the numbers look, they're low.
Yeah.
So I don't,
There's an opportunity.
yeah.
Right.
Well, the state average is like 17.2 for class size, and we're right there, but some of our class sizes are bigger, like the fifth grade at Mountain View is already at like 22, so and then I can share it, but the National Center for Ed Statistics has every state in the country and what their class sizes are by elementary, middle, and high, and we'd be kind of moving to above the average.
I know, but fifth grade here, the number looks low.
Well, you're
The amount
talking about
of
fifth grade
kids.
going,
I'm just looking at it based on the number of teachers that we have.
Yeah.
Like how that breaks down.
because right now, at both fifth grade, we have a team of 4. And so one of the things that we're probably going to need to do is look at elementary schools as a whole and say, okay, where is your largest grade level? And then that team is a little bit larger than, say, where your smallest grade level is. It doesn't necessarily have to be fifth grade or fourth grade. It's really going to depend on what the enrollment is of each grade level.
Does the class get divided between the 2 elementary schools
Yes.
even?
It is based on the boundaries, which we haven't really
Right.
adjusted.
But I didn't
So right
know.
now, Maple Shade has grown in enrollment the last couple of years more than Mountain View.
They're not evenly.
No.
Not for,
The other piece that changes that a little bit, although Dr. Sullivan's looking at it, is where the special education programming is.
Okay.
We're literacy support based at Maple Shade, and we have ABA at Mountain View.
Correct. We have the learning centers right now, so we're looking at how do we adjust that? And so maybe run a learning center at both schools.
Yeah.
And then the other piece to that is we'll probably have to look in the spring at all of our special educators across the district, and then really with Dr. Sullivan's team, look at where's the student need? Because just because you may have been at one school for a number of years, the student needs are shifting and our programming is shifting.
Right.
We may need to do some movement of special educators.
Okay.
Pam, did you put
Interesting conversation.
the 20 and the 20 for sports in yet, or no, that's not in?
It is in there.
It's in?
Yes,
Great, okay.
yes. I'm going to verify.
What I would like to do, my thought is that we submit the level 1, which is level services, putting back in all the things that we took out last year, because it's worth looking at, or at least demonstrating. That results in the 624 for a level service budget. That would be our level 1. What I would also like to do with the permission of the committee is just share some of these thoughts with the town manager as we move closer to the other number, and some of our ideas, just to keep conversation going, so if that's all right. So for today, we would need to approve the level 1 at that 624. If there aren't any other things to discuss.
All right. I'd like to move to accept or submit
The level service budget,
a level service budget of 6.4? 6.24%
increase
increase
for FY '26.
over FY '26.
Motion made by Antonella.
Second.
Second by Carrie.
Excellent.
Good job. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. That carries 4-0.
Forget the word quadrant.
I was gonna say, maybe we should put the budget discussions in the front end of the meetings when we're not, not as hungry.
Yeah.
The other one, Greg, is I did put your school committee stipend history.
Yeah, I was gonna get there next.
Okay.
And so we do have two budgets to approve. One budget is the school operating budget, and the second one, if you go one page further, is the school committee stipend. That's a standalone budget, so the whole line item is the 10,650.
Correct, yes, that's right. It's actually paid by the town, not under the school department, but they always have me submit it for.
Out of our budget.
It's just a second budget, yeah. But we make the request, and there have been years that we've requested an increase, and most years we do not. Any thoughts? I think as a challenging budget year, we keep it clean and dry, is my thought.
Agreed.
So with that, I would entertain, if there is no further discussion, someone to move to submit a level budget for the school committee's stipend.
I move to submit a level.
Budget request, yeah.
Budget request for the school committee stipend.
Motion made by Amy.
Second.
Second by Carrie. Another discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. That carries 4-0.
Great.
Hey, Pam, that's in Munis as well?
Yep.
Same way? Okay.
Well, it's, yeah, I'll work with the town on that to make sure.
Okay, so like I said, we will bring that back. We will look to have an executive before the next meeting as well. Yeah, we'll get there. Okay, finally on our agenda for this evening, under new business, we have the approval of East Long Meadow High School Science Team State Robotics and Drone Competition on February 14th, March 14th, and March.
So this is the robotics and drone team. We had approved some of their trips earlier in the fall. These are trips that they'll be undertaking. These will enable them, depending on their results, to make it to nationals. And I don't know if they still call it worlds, but when it was just a robotics team, they used to go on to the, oh yeah, there it is, the World Championship. And the Northeast Drone Championship in the first paragraph there. Mr. Van Buren has a set group of parents that generally go. At least one parent joins him every trip, so he and that one chaperone, but in most cases, they have more than just that one parent who goes with them to the various competitions.
Is this one of those trips that needs the nurse?
I was just gonna ask if there's any update on that.
Yeah, so the benefit here is that the parents go, which alleviates
Oh, all right, good.
the need for the nurse, because the parent takes the responsibility. If the parent didn't take the responsibility, we would be in a more challenging situation.
All right.
In terms of an update.
Yeah, aren't we coming up close to, I went to the New York trip, or there's a few?
Yeah, so the New York trip, they have, I believe, figured out. But we're not out of the woods yet, because the compact state agreement has not yet been agreed to. So our trips at the end of the year, just go over the border to Connecticut, could be in jeopardy, and probably more significantly, given the money that's involved, our Washington DC trip with the Birchland eighth grade.
Disappointing.
So we are right now reviewing that with our attorney to see how we can navigate this. One of the things that we did learn today is that at least the state of Maryland does give a reprieve for school trips and allow for you to apply for a waiver for a short period of time. The question would be, how do we get there? Because does Connecticut, New York, I think we touch in there as we're going down New Jersey, Delaware, and so forth. What do you do in those states? Or maybe, and so the attorney's looking into that to see if we can apply for that, or if there's something through the Board of Health, the State Board of Health, that maybe there's a waiver there that we can look at, because Massachusetts has agreed to be a compact state. I think it's now the other states, as far as I understand it, that need to get this done. How many are coming on board? And so where would that allow us to allow our licensed nurses or medical practitioners to go? That's where we are. It's not a great amount of progress, but at least Maryland can give us a waiver.
Oh,
We're looking
nice.
forward to that.
If we could get there.
It's gonna fly. I am meeting with Mr. Pearson later on in the week, after I talk to the attorney, so we can start to look at that and figure out, okay, where are we with this whole thing?
Yeah.
Because we do have a nurse, actually a physician's assistant, who's willing to go on the trip.
Oh.
But it's just a question of whether
Counts.
the license will be able to be utilized in these other states.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
We are in, or at least Mr. Pearson's in conversations with the Hingham Public Schools, because they have a Washington trip too that could be held up. I'm sure there are others. He got in contact with the Hingham Public Schools, and so we're trying to collaborate and see, okay, how are people dealing with this? And so I'm sure there'll be other school systems that will start to get into this discussion. Because it's not an uncommon trip.
Yeah, right.
No,
No?
Connecticut does it.
Right.
Simsbury, yeah.
And they're not a compact state yet either, Connecticut.
Yeah.
So
So
we can go into the state.
no, I know, well, I'm just thinking PTO this week. At what point are we gonna, like, we're gonna try and give people like 30 days or something to like
Hopefully we're
their-
gonna know by the end of February of like how we do this, if we can do it at all. If it becomes too challenging, then we may have to, I mean, Washington will be our biggest test. Smaller trips such as the robotics team, you can work around, and if parents are willing, they'll go. And that takes us off the hook of needing a nurse.
Maybe you'll just have to go to Washington with all the other parents. That will change the whole dynamic, right?
Yeah. So hopefully we'll get more information within the next week or two. It's on our radar pretty much each week.
We have to approve this one.
Please.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure we didn't forget to do it.
We didn't forget. We were getting there. Yes, I would take someone to move that, please.
I move to approve the ELHS Science Team State Robotics and Drone Competitions on February 14th, March 14th, and March 28th.
Motion made by Antonella.
Second.
Second by Carrie. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. That carries 4-0.
Let Mr. Van Buren know.
Okay. And if we have nothing else, winter break, February 16th through the 20th, coming up next week.
I saw that.
Did you see? I was just gonna show you.
And get the illness out of the building.
And Julie is one of the trainers.
And since we've come to a conclusion, I'd take a motion to adjourn, please.
Still moved. And done.
Motion made by Antonella.
Second.
Second by Amy. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. That carries 4-0. Thank you. We are adjourned.